Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger. We welcome you back. He's Rogers Hampton. I'm Patrick Netherton, and we're very pleased to welcome in our special guest, Chris J. from the, okay.
It's a mouthful.
JJ Marshall, who's on after us, got after me because I called it the Tourism Bureau, not the Tourist Bureau, and I'm going to ask you about that in a second. So it's the Shreveport Bossier Convention and Tourist Bureau.
You said it right. You get a prize.
So my question is, why tourist and not tourism?
You know, look, I could regale you with a whole lot of acronyms from our industry. Most places, by the way, are CTBs, which are Convention and Tourist Bureaus.
Okay.
We're a CVB, which is a Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Okay.
We're technically a DMO, which is a Destination Marketing Organization.
You're a BAMF. We know that.
But yeah, it's all just a way of saying we're the people that are here to help folks who are from out of town or who are planning a trip find their way around town and find the good stuff.
Right.
I mean, all those acronyms and things. We're just friendly locals that are here to help folks find their way around.
All right, if you have any questions for Chris, if you want recommendations for anything, we got him here. Text us at 318-657-0HAM, which is a nightmare scenario, 0HAM. 318-657-0426 if you have any questions or whatnot. All right, so give me some idea of what it is you do.
So essentially, I help people get the word out about their events. And in this town, we have a lot of what I would call attractions, places like museums, art galleries. We have restaurants. We have, tour guides.
Rogers Hampton.
We have Rogers Hampton.
He's an attraction.
And people don't know enough about Rogers Hampton.
No, they don't. And that's just the way he likes it.
In a lot of situations, those organizations don't have like a really robust, for example, like marketing team. It might be 2 or 3 people running an entire place, and the same person who makes sure the door's unlocked is also trying to get the word out about the upcoming big event. I'm here to help.
Right.
I mean, right now I'm working, for example, with like the Multicultural Center's fundraiser they've got coming up on the 27th, the volleyball event, the Olympic volleyball event that the Sports Commission's got coming up in August. GeekCon, I helped send out a press release and do some online marketing for that.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to get people to town. In a nutshell, that's what I do, is try to get people to town.
So how do you, short of your, Twitter and Facebook and your, social media and everything, do you get a lot of people who just randomly send you an email or call and say, hey, I'm from, Arizona. I'm coming to Shreveport. What is there to do?
Yes. You would be amazed.
I am amazed.
Who some of them turn out to be. I'm thinking of a random encounter about a year ago. I'm sitting in my office. I'm working, probably doing some social media or something, and I got a page from the front desk. Someone here you might be interested in meeting. He says he's from, I believe it was St. Louis, and he's just passing through. It was Henry Miller Shreve's great-great-grandson who had never been to Shreveport, never seen the city that bore his family's name. You know what I mean? And he's just like, where can I get something good to eat around here? And I'm thinking, I can't believe I'm standing here with Henry Miller Shreve's great-great-grandson.
Did you tell him that his great-great-grandfather also never stepped foot in Shreveport while you were at it?
I asked him if he'd seen the statue. He said yes. They had just come from there. But, you just never know who's going to call, walk in the door, email, interact with you through Facebook. Lately I almost feel like a customer service representative on social media. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get a lot of direct messages of people looking for everything from, a place to eat to a place to bring a conference or a family reunion, all sorts of things like that.
Are y'all technically a city group, a parish group, a state group? What are y'all technically under?
If you really want your eyes to roll back in your head, I'll give you the phrase quasi-governmental organization.
Okay, very good. But the old QGO, everyone knows that.
But the thing is, we're funded by a hotel motel occupancy tax.
Gotcha.
So like your taxpayer dollars don't fund the Tourist Bureau unless you stay in a hotel in Shreveport Bossier, which most of us who are locals don't.
Well, Rogers does occasionally. That's just to get away from his old lady. He does that from time to time.
I have heard that from the staff over at Diamond Jacks.
Yeah. Rog, there's nothing Rog likes more than going out in public. I can tell you that. Talking to Chris J. Chris, so what do you then? What's maybe the most often requested thing you get? What are people really looking for? I'm guessing if I just had to guess, it's where to eat.
Yes, I would, and honestly, that sort of the cart kind of came before the horse for me because I wouldn't call myself like a quote unquote foodie when I
Right.
took the job 10 years ago, because I've been working for the Tourist Bureau for about 10 years. But I just noticed right off the bat that the overwhelming majority of requests were looking for information on local cuisine.
Yeah.
So I started realizing, hey, I need to be crafting more messages about that because it appears to be obvious that's what people are looking for. But we still, our population still just about doubles downtown with people from East Texas and Central Texas on the weekends coming in to game. So I also want to make sure that I'm not just talking about food.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But yes, a majority of inquiries are looking for information about where the locals eat.
So does that mean that every time you go eat somewhere, you just expense it?
No,
I mean,
I wish very much.
and can I have that job if that's the case?
Since you asked, you know
Yeah.
what's funny? I write a blog, which is 20by49.com. It's the number 20, the letter X, the number 49.com. It's a reference to where the interstates meet.
Right.
But I get $15 a week to dine out.
There you go.
To review a place for the blog. And people often joke with me about why so many of the places I review are like cheap eats.
Right.
And I'm like, well,
yeah, you only got $15.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
It's like 10 days till payday.
Right. All right. So you heard my review of the McDonald's on Fairfield. Here's the review of the McDonald's online.
But in all seriousness, I think our community is really strong in the cheap eats category.
Yeah.
Like sub $10, we've got some pretty great stuff.
Yeah, Rogers will tell you the stuff in the vending machine is fantastic here at Town Square
Those
Media.
Viney weenies, I'm telling you, man.
He loves some good crackers. All right, so one of the things, and Rogers and I were talking about this kind of in the lead up to this conversation, is it really does feel like, and I've lived in Shreveport my whole life, so has Rogers, and it really does feel like in the last, say, 5 to 7 years, we have seen an explosion in a lot of things that look, we've had chain restaurants.
Yes.
We have the Chili's and the Applebee's and things like that, but it seems like we've seen a really big explosion in local restaurants, even regional chains that maybe aren't, that aren't national, and not only just a lot of local restaurants, but a lot of local festivals, a lot of local things to do, things like GeekCon, which has only been here for 5 years. It feels like we've seen an explosion of sort of culture in Shreveport.
I totally agree. I also think there's this wonderful kind of explosion of local pride. I mean, do you remember like 5 years ago, I don't remember anyone walking around with like 318 on their t-shirt or on a hat, or the local airport code SHV on a hat. I think it's so cool. It's like, this is a great thing to see happening. And I know just a few years ago, I mean, it would have been, I would never have imagined that, you go out on a Friday night to Twisted Root or somewhere and see
Right.
5 guys wearing 318 shirts. You know what I mean? Like,
Or go to 5 Guys and see 10 guys wearing Twisted Root shirts.
Yes.
I mean,
But yeah, so I'm trying to keep up with the verbal sparring, and it's really an art here.
There's a lot going on here. A lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm leaving in 58 minutes. And I did have a joke. You mentioned the hats with the airport code. They're cheaper in Dallas if you want to go buy them there. By the way, oh come on, I love Mark Crawford. He's one of my friends. I love Mark, but I had to get that in there. All right, so when people, let's say I'm coming in from Dallas. I don't know anything about Shreveport. I'm going to come in and gamble. I say, hey, where do I eat? Do you have hey, here's my, here's a link to what best places to eat? Is it I'm going to tell you everything I like? What do you do when someone hits you with that question?
If I'm emailing with them, I want to send them a digital, it's easy to email, just a link to the digital copy of a brochure we make called Eat Here, a food lover's guide to Shreveport Bossier.
Okay.
I'm proud of it, and I'm shilling for it because I write it, and I photograph it, and I produce it. I do everything but do the graphic design and physically print the thing.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really proud of it, and I'm thankful to the Tourist Bureau for letting me kind of run with that thing.
Yeah.
The Eat Here guide is sort of my Cliff's Notes to Shreveport Bossier's culinary community, but if they're just standing in front of me, like they just walked in the visitor center or they called, I want to make sure they've done some of the basics. Places like Herbie K's.
Sure.
I want to make sure if they're going to have a breakfast that maybe they get a good diner breakfast at Strawn's or at Cotton Bowl. I kind of want to give them like I want to give the basics first, and then if I feel them out that that they might be interesting people, I might steer them somewhere off the beaten path like Lucky Palace or something.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You kind of got to, when someone say, where should I go eat? You got to learn a little bit about them first. Like some people, if you send them to Lucky Palace first, you're going to scare the living daylights out of them. They might turn around and curse your name. You just kind of got to figure out what kind of person this is before you make those recommendations.
Yeah, it's I hesitate to tell this story because I love Lucky Palace, but I've been there a couple of times, and one of the times I went there, my lug nut cover got stolen on my truck. It's not exactly the best place to leave your car, but it's an amazing place to eat. It's one of the best restaurants in town. I tell everyone when they ask me, I say, look, hit Superior Grill, hit Monjuni's, hit Herbie K's. That's kind of your basics. Those are good local joints that you're not going to find really anywhere else, or the original is here. And then, you can kind of branch out from there. But then, I turn around and look, and I know you posted a deal about there's I guess, is a lady that's doing Northwest Louisiana cuisine.
Oh, yes. Chef Hardette. Chef Hardette Harris is I think she's potentially a game changer for this whole region.
Yeah.
Not just this region, but if I think specifically about the Allendale neighborhood, which has been really challenged for the last, 20 years or more.
Yeah.
She has got a little building down there that she calls Us Up North. It used to be the Fuller Center Grocery, or the Fuller Grocery in Delhi. And it's right there. Gosh, I forget what street it's on, maybe Allen. But it's right there behind the macaroni factory. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're getting real Shreveporty.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. You go in there for lunch, and there'll be a big crowd, 30 or 40 people, white, black, rich, poor. The parking lot's full. Place is well kept. The flower beds are beautiful. It's like, this is a perfect little corner to build a new Allendale from. You know what I mean? She's really doing something great.
I love this, and like Ono's, that went from a food truck to a brick and mortar place. I mean, everywhere you turn, something new is coming in, and that can be scary at times. But one of the things I really like about Shreveport is Shreveport, if nothing else, will pack out a new place at least for a few months. And now after that, if you don't step up, whoever's running the place, if you don't step up and make them come back, they may not. But when a place first opens, it's almost impossible to get into for a couple of months.
Right, we really do. I love that, too. We really do step up that way. That neighborhood, I guess you would call it Madison Park.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the name of a shopping center, but it's the best name we've got for it.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. I mean, I can only imagine. I think it'll be a place that younger people are really kind of clamoring to rent apartments in the next few years. I mean, you've got Key Mexico, Maryland's Place, which is, probably the most popular brunch in town. You've got Ono's, which is very popular right now. Louder Baking Company. Man, I could go on and on. That one little corner is getting really cool.
Yeah. Back in the day, it was just El Chico's and Johnny's Pizza. That's all you could get there.
But it was the El Chico's with the patio.
Yeah, I love it. And by the way, as Rogers can tell you, El Chico's is still my favorite Mexican restaurant. I don't, that salsa it cannot be replicated anywhere else. I love it to death. Talking to Chris J. from the Shreveport Bossier Convention and Tourist Bureau. When you bring in folks, and we've seen now, we're getting some people, the down south, True South folks came in.
Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah, did a nice piece about Herbie K's and about Lucky Palace. We saw, and I'm gonna talk more specifically about this in a moment. The barbecue challenge from the guys from New York.
Yes, that was really funny.
Yeah, you were in it, and you and I are gonna talk about that in a second.
That was odd.
But there's a lot of, it seems like people are recognizing that, hey, even though Shreveport sometimes gets a bad reputation, and look, True South, I thought, did somewhat of a disservice by basically saying Shreveport's a town that that's built for you to leave.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily like that, but I think that it also is representative of the fact that people understand, yes, we do have interesting things happening here. We do have interesting cuisine happening here. I tell folks all the time, what I love about Shreveport, big enough to have all the chain things, the big box stores, small enough that you have the local stuff, and there's not bad traffic.
I agree. I mean, completely. The report that I saw earlier this week, and I mean, I just want you to know, I don't just look at the world through rose-colored glasses. I understand Shreveport and Bossier City have got major, major challenges, but some of the stuff that I see about us just doesn't pass muster.
Yeah.
The report earlier this week that we're one of the 10 most stressed out cities in America. It's like, I understand, we need jobs, and that is an ultimate stressor.
Yeah.
But no matter where you live in this town, you're probably going to get to work in about 12 minutes. If you have a car, if you have a bus, if you have to ride the bus, it'll take longer. But, I can't imagine us being one of the most stressed out cities. I've been to New York. I've been to Houston. I've been to, This just doesn't make sense. So, yeah, I think we get kicked around a little more than we deserve.
Yeah, and I would agree. Okay, so I want to talk about this barbecue competition that came down, because I took umbrage with one major thing. A, I'm a barbecue snob. You follow me enough to know that. So I'm not high on barbecue in Shreveport to start with, and I freely admit that. I'm not going to name names.
I understand.
But we had the barbecue guys from Brooklyn or whatever come down, and it's look, they're portraying things in a certain way. I understand that. They kind of act like they're sort of big galoots or whatever, and that's kind of their deal. But I kind of took umbrage with the fact that they mentioned they were coming down to the heart of Cajun country,
right,
in Shreveport, and at one point he goes out crawfishing with a guy, which it was not in the middle of crawfish season at all, so I don't know how you're going to catch anything. I think it was in the winter when it was filmed.
It was.
But B, so he's in this boat with this guy who's taking him crawfishing, and he says, y'all got gators out here, in his big thick accent. And the guy's like, yeah, I guess there's some, this guy knows, hey, we're not in danger of being killed by an alligator in the middle of this boat. But he goes, yeah, I guess there's some alligators out there. And then they splice in footage. I'm not kidding. They splice in footage of the gators in front of Bass Pro Shop. So that little concrete enclosure there that the gators at Bass Pro have? Well, so they zoomed in on the gators, but you can still see the concrete behind them. And so they're interspersing these shots of the gators at Bass Pro. And if you've ever seen the gators at Bass Pro, they really don't do anything. They just kind of sit there. Yeah. Right? So they're like, oh, there are gators out here? And then they're interspersing like gators on concrete. I'm not kidding you. I laughed so hard that I almost cried. But you were in on that thing. Tell me about that.
Well, before I get into the nitty-gritty of that filming, I will say that working with reality TV, with no exception, is always a very difficult experience for me.
I bet.
You got to be very careful about how you actually end up being represented. But that particular show, and I can't remember the name, but
it's Barbecue Brawl, maybe?
Something like that.
I think it's Barbecue Brawl.
That particular show was really interesting because they were filming in the dead of winter.
Yeah.
It was like February. It was extremely cold, and they rented an outdoor facility
they did
the
the Dixie Gin up in Dixie, yeah. Which by the way, my family helped to sort of renovate and get back, put back on the map.
So everyone was just miserably, miserably cold. You could see their breath coming out when they were talking. But the funny thing about it is I actually voted for the local
it was
barbecue
Hickory
family.
Stick. I don't mind saying it was Hickory Stick.
Yeah, I voted for Hickory Stick, and I much preferred what Hickory Stick made.
Yeah.
I don't want fancy barbecue, and I feel like those guys did fancy barbecue really not great.
Yeah.
It was the bread wasn't right. The I think it was pulled pork was not right, and they made these like fritters that they call beignets.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And they were not beignets.
Yeah.
And they were not good.
Yeah. But here's the interesting thing. So as you're filming that, are they giving you instructions in any way, like, hey, let's shoot this again, or let's do, because that's the one thing you hear about reality TV is there's a lot of, okay, this is your spontaneous reaction.
Right.
Now let's do that again.
Well, and you'd have some producer. Yes, you would have a producer or someone standing off screen like, okay, we need you to really look like you're loving it,
Right.
And
You're
I'm like,
whoa.
I don't love it. It's whoever would eat beignets with barbecue anyway.
Yeah.
It was just so kitschy for them to they were just kind of doing this Louisiana thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's why they had video of the Gators in front of Bass Pro.
But now, the
Gators
other
flag.
hand, you get great people that come to town, and you just feel so sorry for them. The Carnival Eats guys came and spent a whole week here during the year that the state fair got pouring thunderstorms every day. They weren't really even able to film. We had to kind of help them put their show together, and that guy was super into it. He was so excited about eating all the crazy things he could find at the state fair, but it was literally a washout, so.
Here's what's crazy. When I used to have the morning show on another station, we went and we did our show from the state fair, and I basically was the Carnival Eats guy. Like, I just went around, I ate fried butter, I ate fried Twinkies, I ate fried Snickers. Like, anything I could eat, I got my hand on and I ate. And I call it the eats of strength when I go and do stuff like that. The eats of strength. But, yeah, and I didn't get paid anything for it, by the way. Yeah, I didn't do anything. Back on the Patrick Netherton Show, Rogers Hampton, and we're talking to Chris J, who's joined us in studio from the Shreveport Bossier Convention and Tourist Bureau. All right, so number one, give us links. How do we get because here's what one of the things I think I'm bad about sometimes is I think I sometimes need a refresher course of what's going on in town. I've told Raj I have like my 5 favorite restaurants, and I pretty much just eat there. Good example, Bistro Byron's. Heard from everybody, Bistro Byron's is terrific. It's great. It's been here for, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. I don't know. I can't keep track of time. And I had yet to eat there until like 3 months ago. Well, and I have no reason for not having eaten there. I just didn't. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to finally suck it up and do it. Just go do it. And it was great, and I enjoyed it. But there's so many of these new places that are opening up that I just forget to go try.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. It's hard to keep up. I do my best to keep my eyes peeled for new places. I spend a lot of time just kind of combing Facebook on my personal time,
right?
Because I kind of nerd out over restaurants. I don't know. One thing I've been wanting to ask you, Patrick.
Please.
Have you had ribs from Louisiana Smokehouse on Joella yet?
I have not.
It is a food truck, but this young man knows what he is doing.
Okay.
And I mean, they are fantastic.
I'll check them out. I have a list actually that I want to. This would have been the good week to do it. Unfortunately, I'm in Dallas the entire week, but I do have a list of local/regional barbecue joints that people have told me about. Like, I've tried everything here in town, but I have not had that one. That's a food truck. But there are a lot of places I want to go try. Some of them are outside of the Shreveport Bossier area. But it's interesting because I'm now a Texas barbecue guy. Like, I'm 100% Texas barbecue. So when you start getting the snobbery that comes about, and when I go to some places and it's not Texas barbecue, and the brisket is sliced like roast beef or whatever, or they cut the bark off of it, and I just, I can't do it.
I get so mad about the cutting the bark and the fat off.
Yeah.
I want the bark and the fat. That's what I'm paying for.
That's right. Have you been to Riverport, by the way, in Jefferson?
I have, yeah. I love it.
So good.
I love it.
So good. And unfortunately, when people ask me what's the best barbecue joint in Shreveport, I say it's in Jefferson, Texas. I don't feel good about it. And actually, I'm trying my best to get him to come open up a place in Shreveport.
The Bodacious in Hallsville's awesome. The Bodacious on Moberly
and Longview. Yeah, that's the one.
Bad Wolf in Ruston is tremendous.
I've heard that's one of the places I want to get to. And I know he just came down and did a thing for the 4th of July,
and he did like pork belly burn-ins. He did all sorts of cool stuff that we don't really see around here.
I went and did the guy that was at Crawdaddy's.
Bitter Creek.
Bitter Creek. I knew it was something Creek. Bitter Creek. I went and tried his, and the brisket was really good. He knew what he was doing with the brisket. It was some of the best I've had. The ribs were a little bit iffy, and actually, to his credit, I kind of left a review on my Facebook page. He responded, and we kind of corresponded a little bit back and forth, and I said, look, here's what I thought, and he said, look, it varies. It was a pit he wasn't familiar with. I told him there's one time is not good enough to judge something. And that's actually kind of a question I was interested in. How long before you make a solid judgment on a place to say this place is good or not good, because we all know if you go hit it in the first month, there can be all kind of logistical problems. You don't know what's going on. How much time or how many visits do you give a place before you really give a verdict?
Well, Patrick, the truth is it's time for me to kind of own up to this. And I've never claimed to be a food critic, but I really want to say and underline it, I'm not really a food critic.
Right.
Because I do have like $15 a week that I got as a stipend to eat on. You know what I mean? I understand my limitations.
Right.
But also I know I'm not trying to be too hoity-toity about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But one thing, for example, that happened last week, I just ate one time at Pita de Novo, but I had this crazy awesome, I mean, you're going to laugh at me. People make fun of me all the time for this kind of stuff, but they are serving a Palestinian kind of fried chicken. It's got all these Mediterranean spices that it's fried in, and man, it's the bomb.
I believe it.
And I said to myself, I don't need to come back again. I don't need to do this 3 times. This is out of this world, you know. And I try to be anonymous because I don't want to walk in and go, hey, I'm the tourist bureau guy, because then I'm going to get a plate that looks way better than everybody else's. But sometimes something's so good, I just do it once and I review it because I'm just so impressed.
Yeah, I actually did that with Jerry the King Lawler when we had him on the show a few weeks ago. I went up there and I didn't introduce myself to anyone, and I knew who the manager was, and he and I had spoken. He knew I would be doing the show from there, but I just walked in and ate.
Yeah,
because I didn't want him to go out of his way to put anything special out there, do anything like that. I just wanted to see what's a normal, what are they normally serving. And then after I got done, I walk up and I'm like, hey, I'm Patrick. He goes, man, I would have comped your meal. Like, I would have got you something. I was like, no, that's what I didn't want to have happen.
Yes.
I wanted to be able to give it a legitimate review. And by the way, I like their ribs. I think their ribs are very good. I like their sausage. It's a good kielbasa, which I always appreciate. The brisket, I'm not expecting a Memphis-style barbecue place to have good brisket.
Right,
I'm just not. Right. But the ribs and the sausage were good. The pulled pork was pretty good. That's what I expect out of a Memphis-style barbecue place. High Rail says 15 a weweek is not enough. Well, you ain't kidding. I mean, unless you want to send him some PayPal or something,
and I mean, a lot of it, I'm just, it's meals that I eat on my own dime, and the last thing on earth I want is for some small business to start giving me free stuff.
Right.
Like, that really burns me up, and when I can't stop it from happening, it actually makes me physically, angry. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm trying to spend money with you. Yeah. I'll
tell you what, if you get real mad about some free stuff, just send it over to me. I'll take care of it for you.
But can I tell you a truth, Patrick, real quick? Yeah. It is always the small businesses, like the teeny tiny ones, that want to give you free stuff. And the big ones, the ones that are selling $3 million worth of stuff a year, they could take it or leave it. And it's like, guys, I know this is money from your kids' school supplies. I am paying for this plate. And that's how I see it.
Yeah. Give us some links.
So 20by49.com is where I do most of my food writing. 20by49 is a blog that I officially write for the Tourist Bureau, but I write from the heart. If I don't like something, typically I just don't review it.
Yeah.
I would rather do that than trash something, especially on the clock for the Tourist Bureau. That's the last thing I should be doing. But definitely. I also have a platform called Stuffed and Busted. That's stuffedandbusted.com. It's a joke about stuffed shrimp, and Shrimp Busters is the name. But it's where I can write about things that don't really fit under the tourism umbrella. Like, if I do feel the need to critique something, I will do it there, because I don't want to be, like I said, the Tourist Bureau guy critiquing how this brisket looks.
Right.
But if I need to do that, I can do it at stuffedandbusted.com.
Yeah, it's interesting because people who know me can see the way I write when I review. Because most of the stuff I talk about is barbecue. That's kind of where my expertise is. I'm not going out and reviewing a bunch of Chinese restaurants or Indian food or anything like that. But I have some expertise in barbecue, and so people will parse through what I write and go, "Oh, you didn't really like that place, did you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but you can't tell."
I've gotten that too.
Like I write it in such a way where I'm not going to just trash a place. I might not mention something, or may just mention that, hey, here's some brisket and sausage. The sausage was really good, and just never mention what the brisket was. There's a way to parse through it. But I'm with you. Like, I don't want to be a negative guy. Like, I don't want to write negative, even though I'm not being paid by anyone to promote anything. I still don't want to write negatively about someone who's trying to do good work.
Right, especially if it's an independent business.
Yeah.
The restaurant industry has gotten so saturated in this town, and a lot of the mom and pops are really, they have a hard enough time as it is without some, wannabe a food critic on the internet shooting them down. That's how I feel. But I understand there's also a place for honesty. And, if you say, look, this was overcooked or this really isn't up to par, you need to let them know that. You would be doing them a disservice not to.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, giving feedback in a constructive way.
Yeah, and that's what I try to do. Like I told the guy that was from Bitter Creek, I said, look, the ribs weren't quite there, and he said, I know, and I said, look, I understand. I'm not mad at you for it. There are a lot of variables that come with cooking barbecue. That's for sure. On the entertainment side, it seems like, again, much like the food, it seems like the entertainment's growing. People are going back to municipal and playing a lot. We're getting good concerts still at the CenturyLink. There's, now we're getting some of the local clubs are having a lot of bands that come in and perform, and it just feels like, again, the entertainment industry is rising in Shreveport a good bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of that has kind of the same, it has to do with the same, an extension of that local pride we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like I imagine Winston Hall. Do you know Winston Hall?
I know the name.
He's a local piano player, but he also gives music history tours, and that's something we've needed really badly. Shreveport Municipal Auditorium has once again got it where people can pay money and take a guided tour a few times a month of the building. Now, that wasn't even possible for several years there, and SMG has gotten it possible again, so I'm so thankful for that. I mean, that is to me, I know this sounds way oversimplified, but that is the one thing we've got to do right in this town, is be able to give somebody a tour of Shreveport Municipal Auditorium if they drive in from some other, faraway place, especially Europeans. For some reason, I've worked at the Tourist Bureau for about 10 years now. Europeans still care very much about Elvis, and they still very much want to see that building. So now that we've gotten these tours up again, I think that is a wonderful thing. I think people like Winston just banging that drum and saying our music history is something to be proud of, they have made that happen.
You mean playing that piano?
Yeah, exactly. Banging those keys.
Yeah. Rogers hates
If you haven't seen him live, though, you actually remind me of one another. Y'all would get along very well.
Oh well,
you should have him on for a segment.
I feel very bad that he reminds you.
You should have him on because he's got this incredible energy and this depth of knowledge about local music history, and just the desire to see it shared with the rest of the world.
Yeah, I have incredible energy for 2 hours out of the day. The other 22 hours, I'm a slug. All right, talking to Chris J. from the Shreveport Bossier Convention Tourist Bureau. Now that Shreveport seems to be, we were talking about coming in, the food prize, the music prize, the film prize, all of that stuff that's going on. Do you think there is a signature event for Shreveport now, or have we gotten so many things that are all worthy of the time that it seems like every season has a signature event now?
This is such a good question, and I was not at all prepared for it. Probably the thing that I feel is the most Shreveport, Louisiana in Shreveport for me, and I'm answering personally, is the Crew of Highland Parade.
Yeah.
When I have company come in from out of town to do something in Shreveport, and I know they have options for all these other places they could go, and they say, I want to go to the Highland Parade, I want to catch a hot dog, you probably won't see me till 6 p.m. I'll probably be asleep on your back patio when you get home. Like, it's just, that event has become a thing. It really, truly has.
Yeah.
I mean, finally, I interact a lot with the State Office of Tourism, and they finally have gotten it too. That's the parade with the hot dogs. That's the parade where you just go party in people's yards. Yes, yeah. So I feel really strongly about the Crew of Highland Parade, although I do think our Mardi Gras in general is better than it gets credit for being. But I really love the Crew of Highland Parade. I would think that would be my vote.
I mean, here's the thing. If you just want a guy to eat a hot dog and pass out after drinking a bunch of alcohol, Rogers does that literally every weekend. Rogers' house is the Crew of Highland Parade every single weekend. Sometimes he just passes out in the yard, like it just if he leaves the house at all.
I do think that a couple of our biggest festivals, and I'm speaking as me personally, I work at the Tourist Bureau, but this is my opinion. I think a couple of our festivals are in a little bit of an identity crisis moment where they've kind of got to figure out who they're for and what they want to do. I mean, in some of these festivals where they bring a little bit of music for everybody, and it ends up being a festival for nobody. So I'm really, really, I'm hoping that some new life with the staff and some new energy at some of those festivals and new people on their boards will mean that we start to see a little more contemporary music programmed in a lot of those festivals.
How do we, as a member of the public, how do we get the brochure that you were talking about that you have cultivated?
Shreveport-Bossier.org. I should have said that from the get-go.
Well, I'm going to link it on the Facebook page and on the Twitter feed. I'll throw a link up there.
There's on the top right of Shreveport-Bossier.org, there's a brochures tab. I think it's actually called My Trip. I probably need to get that changed to brochures. But you can download or just view online the brochure that I'm talking about, which is called Eat Here, A Food Lover's Guide to Shreveport Bossier.
There you go.
And we do a different version every year. Each year's got a different 20 celebrated bites is what we call it. So things that are kind of famous local dishes. I've done this 5 years now, so we've made 100 celebrated bites, and I'm running out. But it's still it's my favorite project to work on every single year, and I hope people will look at it. I'm proud of it. I think we did a good job of representing Shreveport Bossier.
Finch says "Viva la Film Prize," by the way, which is it's a great event. I mean, it's and that
really
might
be our Prize Fest might be our signature event now.
Yeah,
I mean that weekend it'd be hard to find a more fun weekend in Shreveport Bossier.
Yeah. By the way, we're I don't want to spoil anything because I don't know if it's going to come to fruition, but one of our former guests, Roger Mooking of Cooking Channel, at least they're going to contact him about potentially coming in and being a judge. I know that. I don't know if it'll come to fruition or not, but that's just a contact I made out of nowhere, and all of a sudden my friends at the film prize or the prize were like, "Hey, you want to bring him in for the food prize?" I'm
right.
like, "Hey, you contact him. Go ahead.
You never know who you're going to meet that weekend. It's amazing." And Gregory Kallenberg and his family and his team have put so much of their own time and sweat and energy and money into that. It's admirable. We need like 5 more Gregorys. And then we're set.
I mean, I feel like we need 3 more Rogers while we're at it. Rogers also feels like he needs 3 more Rogers so he can go home and go to bed. All right, final thing before I let you go. When you hear people talk about crime and potholes and infrastructure and we need more police, and we had the vote on the big arena that they were talking about for the minor league team. I mean, I know you're not necessarily in the political side of things, but is it disheartening sometimes the way that Shreveporters talk about their own city? Yes,
but at the same time, I have to acknowledge that it's in their lived experience, it's true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you've had your car broken into 3 times in downtown Shreveport, and you hear me say that downtown Shreveport's a great, safe place to visit, you're going to get mad at me.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to deal with that and live with that. But I think ultimately what it comes down to, and I'm glad you asked about this.
Yeah.
I'm a cheerleader for the city. And when people...
Yeah, and I appreciate you wearing the cheerleader outfit when you came in. That was very nice. Your bloomers are terrific.
When people get upset with me, whether it's on social media or in real life, about just singing the praises of the town and not talking about the bad stuff, I want to say, is that what you want your tourist bureau guy doing?
Right.
You want me out there talking about crime? Because if I do, you should fire me.
Right.
I'm supposed to talk about the good stuff, but I gotta tell you, it is hard. You know, my job is to put positive stuff about Shreveport on Facebook. Guess what? Sometimes the comments
aren't great.
And I have to deal with those in a way that is professional and human. But anyway, I think in the end, Shreveport's gonna rebuild its culture, its community. I think we've been through some hard times, but we've been through them before.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel like we're in somewhat of a renaissance in terms of food and culture anyway.
I agree.
Whatever the infrastructure issues, crime issue, whatever, but it does feel like in terms of the actual personality of the city, we're certainly seeing a lot more positive than we are negative right now. A lot of things growing.
It's nice to hear that because I feel that way too.
Yeah. Chris J., thanks, man.
Oh, man, this was my pleasure. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah. Take the cheerleading suit off now. You can put some jeans on or something.
What is up with you guys? I was driving here and y'all were talking about the Munchkinland people.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I was getting into.
No, that's actually that's what I said. I think you probably heard on there. I was like, I don't know if Chris listening. I don't know what he thinks I don't know if he knows what he's about to walk into. I tell everyone, look, this is not your average sports talk show around here.
It's clearly not.
We do a lot of different stuff. We talk about a lot of different stuff. My mind works in different ways than most other people. And Not only that, but I really do like to talk about things that have to do with outside the world of sports. That's why I talk a lot of barbecue, a lot of food, but I also do like to bring in someone to talk about what's going on in town. This is the kind of stuff I think that makes for a well-rounded show. If I just sat here and was telling you about the third offensive tackle for the Jaguars, everybody'd be asleep. But if I'm telling you, hey, here's some great events that are going. By the way, what are some good events that are going on?
Well, if you don't mind me doing
please.
Talking sports for a second,
yes.
I really hope people will give a chance, consider coming out to support Team USA, to support the U.S. Women's National Volleyball Team at CenturyLink Center, August 2nd through the 4th. If you want to, there's a documentary film to be made here. I think you should make it. But
that would require Rogers to leave his home.
There are teams coming in from like Kazakhstan and Bulgaria and all these places to play volleyball at the CenturyLink Center. Team USA is going to play each day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and this will determine who gets the spots in the Olympics in Tokyo 2020.
That's crazy.
So please consider coming. It's $25. I think they're cheaper tickets for kids and veterans and military. But anywho, it's very affordable.
Hey, get one of them volleyball players on the show.
I will.
Yeah,
I will send some emails.
Yeah. Or better yet, can we do like the hockey people? Can we take crawfish, like plastic crawfish out there, and start throwing them on the court when they just won the first set? Here comes all the crawfish.
That actually might equivalent to like a threat of violence in Kazakhstan.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe the Bulgarians will find that to be offensive. I don't know. Heck, Bulgarians might find being Ben Bozier offensive for all I know. Who knows? Hey-o. No, look, we're positive here.
I don't know if y'all know about GeekCon. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard of this. Speaking of, Rogers, we have breaking news. Breaking news, Rogers.
Breaking news.
That's right. GeekCon breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Kate Flannery from The Office is out. She was unable to make it. Oscar Nunez from The Office is already in there. But guess what? Stanley's on his way here from The Office. Leslie D. Baker, who played Stanley in The Office, will be here at GeekCon replacing Kate Flannery. So there you go. I like Stanley better anyway. Chubby guy, always Jimmy. Always.
This year's going to be great, I think.
Yeah, Oscar Nunez and now Stanley, Leslie Baker will be here. So I'm excited. That's good news.
I'm just hoping. Can you tell me? Will LeVar Burton read a book? Will he read a book at GeekCon?
I don't know.
Because that would be amazing.
I might throw a book at him at some point just to read this. Yeah. Duck. LeVar's one of my guys. I grew up on Reading Rainbow and Geordie LaForge on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yeah.
Like that's what raised me. As a matter of fact, BBC America has a Star Trek The Next Generation marathon every Monday. And I still, when I get up, first thing I do is look on BBC America. Boom, there's the Star Trek. I don't care what episode it is, I'm watching it. And I love LeVar Burton, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we get to interview him.
That would be awesome.
Because I'd love to have LeVar Burton on the show.
I'm legitimately going to geek out when I meet him.
Yeah.
So this is a great year for GeekCon. We've been helping with that. Some just doing social media, blogging, things like that, content marketing. The Highland Jazz and Blues Festival just announced their lineup, September 14th. Two co-headliners, Big Sam's Funky Nation and Margie Perez, who are both big hits right now in New Orleans. So they're going to be bringing a bunch of New Orleans flavor to that festival this year.
Nice.
Of course, it kind of always does have that feel.
Yeah.
The only place you'll ever see Preservation Hall play outside in 98-degree heat. These guys are like 100 years old. But it was still an incredible show they put on. So those are some of the big things that are coming up.
Yeah, well, we're definitely looking forward to GeekCon. Obviously, our big boss man is the guy. So, that doesn't help. That doesn't hurt either when we want to do that.
So can you get me free parking? Or
you're going to have to talk to the city about that, brother.
Nice, really? Okay, cool.
Oh, there you go. I'm going to say, you work downtown. What are you asking me for?
I'm just kidding.
I work out here in the western outpost of town. You're downtown. You should be able to handle that. Chris J. from the Shreveport Bossier Convention and Tourist Bureau. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Patrick.
All right.